Good evening, survivors. This is Alex Mercer speaking, coming to you live on Lost Signal Radio. I wish I could bring better news tonight, but what's unfolding in our city is something none of us could have predicted. Hospitals across the downtown area are reporting a sudden, alarming surge of patients exhibiting violent, erratic, and utterly unpredictable behavior. Nurses and doctors describe scenes that are, quite frankly, horrifying. Patients biting staff, clawing at themselves until they bleed, and attacking anyone who enters the wards. Emergency rooms are overflowing. Medical teams are struggling to maintain control, resorting to barricading doors, calling in additional personnel, and improvising as the chaos escalates. Lab tests conducted over the past 24 hours have returned no answers. Doctors are baffled. There is no known pathogen matching these symptoms. No influenza, no bacterial infection, no common virus of any kind. What we're seeing appears entirely new. Hospitals are reaching out for reinforcements from neighboring cities, but the surge is relentless. Social media is alive with clips, some shaky, some terrifyingly clear, showing patients attacking staff and other civilians. These clips are being shared thousands of times, spreading panic faster than the virus itself. Authorities are urging calm, stressing that these videos are unverified, yet the mounting evidence cannot be ignored. The threat is real, and it's growing. Citizens are being advised to stay away from hospital zones. Roads leading to emergency facilities are congested with worried family members, some desperately trying to find their loved ones, others fleeing the chaos. There are already reports of confrontations between panicked civilians, with some attempting to force entry into hospitals and others clashing over supplies. The atmosphere is tense, and fear is palpable. Families are barricading themselves in homes, boarding up windows, and stocking up on whatever supplies they can find. The city is beginning to feel less like a community and more like a battlefield. Here on Lost Signal Radio, we've been in direct contact with several hospitals and city officials. We're working to provide verified updates as quickly as possible. At this moment, authorities have confirmed that emergency lockdown protocols are being enacted. Streets surrounding major hospitals have been cordoned off, and law enforcement is advising citizens to remain indoors. But I can tell you, from the reports we're receiving, the situation is already spilling beyond the hospital walls. Civilians attempting to flee are being met with chaos, and there are first-hand accounts of attacks occurring even outside the facilities. We've also received messages from first responders who are risking their lives to contain the situation. One nurse, speaking under anonymity, described a patient lashing out so violently that multiple staff members were injured in the process of trying to subdue him. Another paramedic reported encountering entire groups of patients moving together, seemingly coordinated in their aggression, spreading terror along hospital corridors. It's a scenario that sounds like science fiction, yet it is happening right now in real time. For our listeners at home, I cannot stress enough. Stay indoors, secure your doors and windows, and avoid any contact with anyone displaying aggressive or erratic behavior. If you must leave your home for essentials, proceed with extreme caution, travel in groups if possible, and keep communication lines open. This is not a drill. The city's emergency response teams are stretched to their limits, and every citizen must prioritize their personal safety above all else. We are continuing to gather information on the scope of this outbreak. Reports indicate that hospitals outside the downtown core are beginning to see similar symptoms in patients. While the cause remains unknown, officials are emphasizing that this could escalate rapidly if containment is not achieved. Researchers and scientists have been called in to study patient samples, but as of now, There is no vaccine, no cure, and no treatment that has proven effective. The situation is critical, and uncertainty dominates every report we receive. At Lost Signal Radio, we promise to keep the lines open when all else goes dark. We will continue broadcasting verified updates from hospitals, emergency personnel, and city officials. For those of you listening in apartments, vehicles, or any place you've found a signal tonight, remember, stay alert, follow official guidance, and do not attempt to approach anyone acting violently or unpredictably. Your survival depends on caution, preparedness, and situational awareness. And one final note for tonight. If you have loved ones in the affected areas, do not attempt to reach them by traveling into hospitals. Wait for official instructions and shelter in place until you receive verified communication from authorities. Panic is contagious, and it spreads faster than the virus itself. Maintain calm, stay connected to Lost Signal Radio, and we will guide you through the hours and days ahead as this unprecedented crisis continues to unfold. Good evening, listeners. This is Alex Mercer coming to you live with an urgent update that will impact every corner of the city. Just moments ago, city authorities have officially declared a full-scale quarantine. Schools, public transportation, and all non-essential businesses have been ordered to close immediately. Police and National Guard troops have been deployed throughout the city to enforce these measures, and their presence is already being felt on the streets. For those of you listening right now, I cannot overstate the seriousness of this directive. Authorities are taking unprecedented action to prevent further spread of what we now understand to be a rapidly escalating crisis. Across neighborhoods, residents are reacting quickly. Supermarkets and pharmacies are overwhelmed, with shelves emptied within hours as people scramble to stock up on food, water, and medical supplies. Reports from multiple areas indicate that traffic has become chaotic, with cars lined up for blocks and emergency lanes blocked as anxious citizens attempt to secure necessities. Families are preparing for extended periods of isolation, boarding up windows, and securing their homes. The atmosphere is tense, and a sense of fear is beginning to grip the city in ways that are both visible and palpable. The streets, once alive with the normal hum of urban life, are beginning to fall silent. Foot traffic has all but disappeared, leaving neighborhoods eerily empty except for the distant patrols of law enforcement. In some areas, residents report seeing armed checkpoints being established, streets cordoned off, and emergency vehicles moving in organized convoys, all in an effort to maintain control and enforce the quarantine. The city, in effect, has transformed overnight from a bustling metropolis to what can only be described as a state of suspended normality, where every decision now carries weight, and every movement is scrutinized for safety. Authorities are asking residents to remain calm and comply fully with quarantine measures. Avoid unnecessary travel, remain indoors wherever possible, and follow official guidance on obtaining essential supplies. Panic buying and hoarding have already led to shortages in some neighborhoods, and officials warn that disrupting these measures could have serious consequences for everyone. While the reasons for the lockdown are rooted in public safety, the speed and severity of these actions have left many citizens grappling with fear, uncertainty, and questions about what the coming days will bring. For those listening in homes or vehicles, I urge you to pay attention to updates. Emergency services are operational, but they are stretched thin. If you must leave your home for essentials, do so in daylight hours, travel in groups if possible, and maintain communication with friends or family. The city's response teams are doing everything they can to maintain order, but the situation remains fluid. and the threat is real. As the quarantine takes hold, the psychological impact is beginning to show. Reports of anxiety, confusion, and unrest are appearing alongside the more immediate challenges of securing food, medicine, and basic necessities. In the coming hours, citizens will need to rely not only on their own preparedness, but also on clear communication, cooperation, and calm judgment. This is not just about survival. It's about ensuring the safety and security of our communities while authorities work tirelessly to contain the situation. Stay vigilant, listen closely to updates, and take every precaution seriously. This is Alex Mercer, speaking to you live, keeping you informed, and guiding you through the first critical hours of this unprecedented citywide lockdown. Reports are flooding in from across the city. Infected individuals, people exhibiting extreme aggression and unthinkable behavior, are now attacking civilians. Eyewitnesses describe harrowing scenes in downtown streets, with people screaming, running, and desperately trying to escape from individuals who seem driven purely by instinctual violence. Video footage circulating online, shaky but undeniably terrifying, shows chaos in city squares, office districts, and residential areas alike. People are being bitten, scratched, and overpowered, while bystanders scramble to find shelter wherever they can. Hospitals already overwhelmed from the recent surge in violent cases are now on the brink of collapse. Emergency rooms are flooded. Ambulances cannot keep up with the sheer number of injured or infected, and paramedics are being advised to avoid direct contact without full protective gear. First responders are describing the situation as nightmarish and beyond any training we have ever received. There are reports of patients escaping from medical facilities, attacking staff, and spreading panic further into surrounding neighborhoods. The city, once a place of routine and familiarity, has descended into confusion and fear. For residents listening in their homes, this is the moment to be extremely cautious. Avoid all public spaces, barricade doors and windows, and do not attempt to engage with anyone exhibiting violent or erratic behavior. Law enforcement is struggling to maintain order, and while patrols and checkpoints are being established, the speed and unpredictability of these attacks make containment nearly impossible at this stage. Those venturing outside are advised to stay in groups, move quietly, and maintain constant awareness of their surroundings. Panic is spreading faster than the attacks themselves. Families are sharing stories of loved ones attacked in streets, grocery stores, and even within apartment complexes. Social media is flooded with footage, rumors, and pleas for help, though authorities caution the public to verify information and not take unnecessary risks. The scale of this crisis is becoming clear. This is not merely a health emergency, nor a localized outbreak. It is an escalating threat that is now affecting the very core of our city, putting every citizen at risk. Authorities continue to work tirelessly to respond, but with hospitals over capacity, first responders at risk, and infected individuals moving freely through urban areas, the reality is grim. For those listening, I urge extreme caution. Shelter in place wherever possible. Prepare your homes for extended isolation. Ensure that you have food, water, and medical supplies ready. Avoid confrontation. Your safety depends on caution, awareness, and adherence to guidance from authorities. This is Alex Mercer, speaking to you live. Keep your doors locked, stay alert, and listen closely for updates as this unprecedented crisis unfolds. What started as a mysterious virus has now become a direct threat to every citizen, and the hours ahead will demand vigilance, preparedness, and resilience like never before. Good evening, survivors. This is Alex Mercer speaking. And tonight, I'm coming to you not just with news, but with guidance, a lifeline for anyone listening out there in the shadows of our city. If you're hearing this, it means you've made it through the first terrifying hours, and I want you to know this. You are not alone. But the hours ahead will be critical, and every decision you make could mean the difference between life and death. The streets outside are no longer safe. The city we once walked without a second thought has transformed into a place where danger can appear at any moment. That's why, tonight, our focus is survival. If you are at home, barricade your doors and windows. Use anything you can find, chairs, tables, boards, to secure entry points. Make sure your family, friends, or anyone with you is together. There is strength in numbers, and you need to watch each other's backs. Prepare a first aid kit. You'll want bandages, disinfectants, pain relief, anything that could save a life in the absence of medical help. Water and food supplies should be prioritized, even if it's just enough for a few days. Do not risk leaving your home unnecessarily. Only venture out if absolutely unavoidable. Every step outside is a step into uncertainty, a step that could be your last if you are not careful. Improvised weapons may be necessary. Common household items, bats, kitchen knives, even heavy tools, can serve as protection if confronted by aggression. But remember, these tools are not just objects. They are your lifeline. Use them wisely, sparingly, and only when your life or the lives of those with you are directly threatened. Avoid large crowds, steer clear of looting mobs, and never approach anyone exhibiting erratic or violent behavior. This is not a time for heroics. It's a time for strategy, caution, and survival. Local radio stations like the one you're listening to now will continue providing hourly updates. Safe zones, curfew times, and instructions from authorities will be broadcast continuously. Monitor these updates. They may be the only link to outside help. And remember, your mental state is as important as your physical safety. Panic spreads faster than chaos itself. Take deep breaths. Stay calm. Look out for each other. Listen to those in your group. Trust each other. I know it's terrifying. I know the fear can feel crushing, especially as reports come in of attacks, disappearances, and chaos on the streets. But remember this. Humans survive through adaptability, through courage, and through unity. Even in the darkest hours, your instincts, your preparation, and your care for one another can carry you through. Keep hope alive, even if it flickers like a candle in the wind. So tonight, secure your homes, check on your loved ones, prepare your supplies, stay vigilant, stay silent if you must. And remember, above all, that survival is not just about living through the moment. It's about living to see the light of another day. This is Alex Mercer, speaking to you live. I am with you through the static, through the fear, and through the uncertainty. Stay safe, stay alert, and never forget that your strength is your most powerful weapon. The night is long, but together, we can endure it. The country has entered a moment few could have imagined. Earlier today, the president officially declared a nationwide state of emergency, acknowledging the scale and severity of the outbreak that has already overwhelmed multiple cities. Military forces have been deployed to urban centers, moving with precision and urgency, tasked with containing the infected and restoring some semblance of order. Armored vehicles patrol the streets. Checkpoints are appearing on major highways, and curfews have been imposed in cities across the nation. The landscape of normal life has shifted in hours. Roads once filled with daily commuters now bear the steady, tense rhythm of military convoys. Air travel has been suspended indefinitely, and border restrictions are in effect. Authorities are asking citizens to cooperate fully with military and law enforcement personnel, to stay indoors, and to refrain from spreading unverified reports. Yet even as these measures are announced, fear continues to spread faster than any official directive can contain. Reports of infected individuals appearing far from previously affected zones, moving unpredictably through neighborhoods, are creating widespread panic. Social media is alive with videos, images, and rumors, many of which cannot be confirmed. For every verified report, there are dozens of accounts amplifying fear, uncertainty, and anxiety. For those of you listening right now, the reality is stark. The city streets you once walked without thought are no longer safe. Military checkpoints can be seen at intersections and along highways. Armed personnel are enforcing curfews, and emergency broadcast alerts now punctuate the day with instructions for survival. Families are huddled together. Stores have emptied as people rush to gather supplies, and the psychological weight of this nationwide crisis is beginning to take its toll. It is a time to act decisively and carefully. Every precaution, every decision could mean the difference between safety and danger. Prepare your homes for extended periods of isolation. Stockpile food, water, and essential medical supplies if you have not already done so. Barricade doors and windows where possible, and ensure that those you are sheltering with are accounted for and aware of safety procedures. Do not venture outside unless absolutely necessary. The infected are unpredictable, and every encounter carries risk. Travel should be avoided, especially along highways or through areas under quarantine, and only essential movements should be undertaken, ideally in groups and with clear communication. While the situation feels overwhelming, it is crucial to maintain perspective. Authorities and military forces are working tirelessly to contain the threat, but the responsibility to safeguard yourself and those around you falls squarely on your shoulders. Remain alert, verify information before acting on it, and resist the urge to succumb to panic. The hours and days ahead will test endurance, judgment, and resilience, but by staying calm, prepared, and vigilant, survival remains within reach. Even in the face of fear and uncertainty, there is strength in awareness, preparation, and unity. Keep your loved ones close, maintain communication where possible, and prioritize safety above all else. The nation is on high alert. The military is mobilized, and the streets bear witness to a crisis unlike any seen before. The path forward is uncertain, but your actions in these critical moments will define your ability to endure and survive this unprecedented emergency. Stay safe, stay alert, and trust in your preparedness. The city is no longer the place we once knew. As reports continue to pour in, tonight we bring you the voices of those on the front lines of survival, ordinary citizens caught in extraordinary circumstances. These are the first survivor stories, and they paint a picture that is both harrowing and, in some ways, a testament to human resilience. From basements, apartments, and hastily fortified homes, people are calling in to share their experiences, and what they recount is a chilling reminder of how fast normal life can unravel. One family, trapped in their top-floor apartment, described hours of terror as they watched the infected gather below, pounding on doors and windows, their guttural noises echoing through the stairwells. The father told us how he and his teenage children improvised weapons from kitchen utensils, pots, pans, and even broom handles, just to keep themselves safe while barricading the entrance. He spoke of the fear that gripped him, yet there was a spark of dark humor in his voice as he admitted that his youngest, hiding behind a mattress, had been more concerned about the family cut than the looming threat outside. It's moments like these, frightened, absurd, and deeply human, that show both the vulnerability and resilience in people when confronted with the unimaginable. Another caller, a young woman hiding in a basement with a group of neighbors, recounted narrowly escaping an attack in her apartment building. She described running through smoke-filled corridors, dodging the infected, and witnessing neighbors forced to flee into the chaos. Their journey, she explained, was filled with terror, but also remarkable acts of courage. Strangers helping each other through barricades, sharing supplies, and quietly signaling when it was safe to move. Her voice wavered as she spoke, but there was an underlying determination that she would not let fear paralyze her. Even in these first hours of panic, the instinct to survive and protect others shines through. We also heard from a retired man who has spent decades preparing for emergencies in theory, but never imagined anything like this. He described reinforcing doors with whatever materials he could find, keeping a flashlight and first aid kit within reach at all times, and using his knowledge of escape routes to guide his neighbors when they were forced to flee. His story, like so many, is tinged with both dread and a quiet, stubborn hope. Amidst the fear, laughter occasionally breaks through, nervous, fleeting, but real, reminding us that even in the darkest hours, humanity finds ways to cling to normalcy, to connection, and to hope. Listeners, these are not isolated incidents. The stories are multiplying, each one unique, each one a small testament to survival. Families barricading themselves in apartments, individuals creating improvised weapons, people fleeing through hallways as chaos swirls around them. These are the human faces of a city under siege. And while the threat is real, the courage, resourcefulness, and perseverance displayed in these first survivor accounts are equally real. They remind us that even when the world outside is unraveling, inside our homes, our basements, and our apartments, there is a spark of life refusing to be extinguished. Stay vigilant, listeners. Keep your doors locked, your loved ones close, and your wits about you. These survivor stories are both a warning and a guide. They show what can happen, yes, but also what is possible when people act quickly, think creatively, and refuse to give in to fear. This is Alex Mercer, speaking live, bringing you the voices of those who endure, keeping the line open as we navigate the uncertain hours ahead. The nightmare that began in the heart of the city is no longer confined to downtown streets and hospital corridors. Reports are now coming in that the outbreak has spread into suburban neighborhoods, reaching homes, schools, and streets once thought safe. Families are fleeing in panic, abandoning belongings, vehicles, and in some heartbreaking cases, entire homes. Streets that were yesterday filled with laughter, children playing, and the rhythm of daily life are now choked with traffic jams, blocked roads, and the frantic movement of people desperate to escape the threat. The speed and unpredictability of the infection have made clear that containment is failing, and with every passing hour, the danger creeps closer to more communities. Local authorities are issuing evacuation notices, urging residents to leave only if it is safe to do so, and to follow designated escape routes. But for many, the instructions come too late. Reports describe families huddled in cars, driving in long, slow-moving lines with fear etched on every face. Others are abandoning their vehicles entirely, running on foot through neighborhoods, dragging children and pets with them, the sounds of sirens and distant screaming mixing with the roar of panic on the streets. People speak of watching their neighbors turn into the infected, of hearing screams from homes they passed, and of witnessing entire communities collapse in what seems like a matter of minutes. For those listening, it is critical to understand the gravity of the situation. Evacuation may be necessary, but it carries risk. Avoid panic, plan carefully, and if you are moving, do so in groups and only along verified safe routes. Do not stop for belongings. Your safety and the safety of your loved ones is the only priority. In these hours, decisions are measured not by convenience or comfort, but by survival. Listen to radio updates, pay attention to authorities' instructions, and remain vigilant at every turn. Stories coming in from suburban residents paint a chilling picture of what this outbreak looks like outside the city center. One caller described barricading herself in a small house with her elderly mother and 2 children, listening in horror as the infected swarmed the neighboring streets. Another recounted abandoning her home entirely after watching several neighbors succumb to aggression and terror in front of her own eyes. Even as fear dominates, moments of human resilience emerge, people helping one another, strangers sharing shelter, and families finding courage in the smallest acts of protection and care. These stories remind us that even in despair, humanity persists. Though survival is fragile and fleeting, tonight, the suburbs are a mirror of the chaos that struck the city's core just days ago. The infection moves swiftly, unpredictably, and without mercy. For those listening, remember, stay alert, secure your surroundings, move cautiously if evacuation is unavoidable, and never underestimate the need for preparation. Panic is dangerous, but inaction can be fatal. Keep your loved ones close, trust verified guidance, and understand that the choices you make in the next hours will determine not only your survival, but the survival of those around you. This is Alex Mercer speaking. The world outside is changing rapidly. Fear is spreading as fast as the infection. And yet, even in the darkest hours, careful preparation, courage, and human connection can make the difference. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and listen closely, because the next moments will demand every ounce of attention, awareness, and resilience you can muster. The chaos continues to ripple outward, listeners. As supplies in stores dwindle and shelves lie empty, lawlessness is beginning to take hold. Reports are flooding in of looters, groups of people taking advantage of the confusion and scarcity to raid supermarkets, pharmacies, and even warehouses. Some of these individuals are desperate, driven by hunger and fear. Others are taking advantage of the chaos for opportunistic, violent crimes. The streets are no longer safe, and even areas that were relatively calm yesterday are now scenes of confrontation, confusion, and fear. Authorities are pleading with citizens to resist the urge to travel unnecessarily. Personal safety must take priority over property. Your home, your loved ones, and your own survival are far more important than the contents of a store. Yet, in these desperate times, we're hearing stories of moral dilemmas playing out in real time. People are being forced to make impossible choices. Do you risk venturing out to try to secure food for your family, knowing the streets are crawling with danger? Do you defend your property against those who come seeking to take it by force? In moments like these, every decision carries weight, and every action has consequences. From the reports we're receiving, confrontations are tense and often violent. Improvised barricades are being erected in neighborhoods, not just to keep the infected out, but also to prevent looters and opportunistic criminals from entering homes. Families are working together, sometimes with neighbors they barely know, to fortify doors, windows, and gates. There are accounts of citizens using furniture, appliances, and anything heavy they can move to block entrances, all while keeping watch through windows for anyone approaching. The tension in these communities is palpable. Fear, determination, and adrenaline mixed together in a volatile combination. Some calls describe harrowing encounters in stores and pharmacies. One survivor recounted entering a local grocery only to find several armed individuals looting shelves. Negotiations quickly turned hostile. Shouts echoed through the aisles. Glass shattered. And she was forced to escape empty-handed while dodging improvised weapons hurled by panicked looters. Another caller, hiding in a pharmacy with a small group of neighbors, described listening to the chaos outside for hours, praying that no one would find them. The sound of footsteps, shouts, and breaking glass kept them on edge, hearts racing, and minds spinning with questions about what tomorrow would bring. These situations are testing the very fabric of human morality. In some neighborhoods, people are choosing to share supplies with those in need, even as the risk of exposure grows. In others, desperation has led to violence, theft, and mistrust. The line between survival and immorality is being drawn in real time, and the choices we make now will define not just individual safety, but the future of entire communities. Even in the face of danger, acts of courage and empathy emerge, providing a small but critical reminder that humanity has not vanished entirely amidst the chaos. For those of you listening, your safety is paramount. Avoid crowded areas, do not attempt to engage with looters or confront violent individuals, and remain vigilant within your own home. Improvised barricades can provide some protection, but situational awareness is your most effective tool. Stay quiet, minimize exposure, and maintain contact with those you trust. Remember, noise draws attention, not just from looters, but also from the infected moving outside. Every sound matters, every movement counts, and every decision can have immediate consequences. Authorities are continuing to issue guidance, emphasizing that travel should be limited to emergencies only. Looting and violence are spreading because people are panicking and supplies are scarce. But by acting calmly, strategically, and cooperatively with trusted neighbors, you can reduce the risk of confrontation and survive the first wave of chaos. Keep track of escape routes, understand the layout of your immediate area, and if you are forced to move, do so during daylight if possible, in groups and with contingency plans in place. As night falls, the intensity of these reports does not diminish. The streets remain unpredictable, and with power outages beginning in some areas, darkness adds another layer of danger. Residents report using flashlights, candles, and even smartphone screens to monitor the exterior of their homes, all while listening intently for the slightest sound that could signal an approaching threat. The emotional toll is mounting. Fear, exhaustion, and tension weigh heavily on everyone trying to survive, yet human ingenuity persists. Families are reinforcing doors with furniture, stacking chairs to block entry, and even creating warning systems with cans and string to alert of intruders approaching. Small acts, improvised solutions, and teamwork are keeping people alive. Listeners, tonight is not the time to underestimate the seriousness of the situation. Looting and lawlessness are only one layer of the danger outside your door. The infected continue to move unpredictably, and the combination of panic, desperation, and opportunism in human behavior is creating a perfect storm of risk. Keep your doors secured, communicate with trusted neighbors only if safe, and above all, remain silent and alert. Every hour spent careful, quiet, and prepared increases your chances of surviving the night. Even as fear grips the city, there are lessons to be learned in these first days. Courage, resourcefulness, and cooperation are the tools that will sustain you. The world outside may be chaotic, violent, and unpredictable, but your preparation, awareness, and careful decision-making are the constants that can keep you alive. Listen closely, act cautiously, and remember that survival is not about property, it is about life itself. This is Alex Mercer speaking live. The streets may be dangerous, the looters unpredictable, and the hours ahead long, but with vigilance, strategy, and courage, there is hope. Stay safe, stay aware, and above all, stay alive. The world has grown quieter in the strangest of ways. Not peaceful, not calm, just disconnected. Tonight, across the city and beyond, the mobile networks have begun to fail. Internet connections flicker like dying candle flames, unreliable 1 minute and completely gone the next. Screens freeze, calls drop mid-sentence, and messages fail to send. The digital landscape that once kept us tethered together, that once made life easier, faster, constant, has crumbled under the weight of the spreading crisis. And in its place, something older has stepped forward to take its place. Something steady, something simple, something human. The radio. It seems almost surreal, listeners, that in a world built on instant communication, it's the oldest technology we have left that's keeping us connected. Across the country, as silence settles over dead phone lines and blank screens, families are gathering around small battery-powered radios, wind-up receivers, dusty old devices pulled from garages and basements. They're turning the knobs with shaking hands, praying for a voice, any voice that can tell them they are not alone. And when they find us, when they hear the crackle of our broadcast slip through the static, we become more than a station. We become lifelines. We become hope. Stations everywhere, large networks, small independents, community-run broadcasts, have thrown themselves fully into this role. DJs, journalists, volunteers, and even ordinary citizens stepping behind microphones for the first time. We're all doing everything we can to keep information flowing. Updates are continuous now. Every hour brings new reports of spreading outbreaks, new curfews, new evacuation orders, or shifting safe zones. Every hour brings another voice trembling with fear, another survivor sharing a warning, another family desperately asking for guidance. And through it all, we keep going. Because we must. Because if we fall silent, then so many out there will have nothing left to cling to in the dark. For many listening right now, the radio has become the center of the home. Families sit close, whispering to keep from drawing attention, watching the windows, while this broadcast becomes the heartbeat of the room. Parents hold their children tightly as my voice or another broadcaster's voice cuts through the quiet. In some homes, the radio sits on a kitchen table surrounded by candles. In others, it rests beside makeshift barricades or in small, hidden rooms where families wait out the night. People listen for the slightest change in tone, the slightest shift in our breathing, as if our voices alone can tell them what's coming next. We offer survival advice: how to ration water, how to stay quiet, how to build stronger barricades. how to remain calm even when everything outside feels like it's collapsing. We repeat curfew announcements for the suburbs, updates on safe zones for the western districts, first aid tips for those treating injuries without medical help. Between these updates, we do what we can to keep spirits alive. Some broadcasters tell stories. Others play music in the few moments we have electricity to spare. Some share messages sent in by survivors, words of love, of hope, of strength, to remind those listening in the dark that someone out there is thinking of them. We've become a strange kind of family here in the studio. A skeleton crew working under dim emergency lighting, rationing our own supplies, checking the locks, and taking turns watching the hallways. The building groans with every gust of wind, every distant boomer from the streets below. And yet, there's a feeling here that I can't quite put into words. Something steady, something stubborn. As long as this station stands, as long as this microphone still sends my voice into the static, we are all still connected. We might be scattered, frightened, hiding behind locked doors miles apart. But through this fragile signal, we are together. One listener wrote earlier, using a weak radio texting device that barely functions now, and they said, "Hearing your voice makes me feel like the world hasn't ended yet. I want you to know, whoever you are, and to everyone listening from bedrooms, basements, rooftops, and barricaded hallways, the world hasn't ended. Not today. Not tonight. As long as a single radio hums with a living voice, as long as even one person is out there listening and holding on, humanity continues. Connection continues. Hope continues. So stay close to your radios. Keep them powered. Keep them protected. Treat them like the lifelines they have become. We will continue to broadcast, no matter what happens outside these walls. We will tell the stories others cannot. We will share the warnings that may save lives. And we will remind you, again and again, that you are not alone. This station, this thin line between silence and connection, is still here. And as long as we breathe, as long as we can speak, as long as this signal cuts through the static, we won't let the darkness swallow the last threads holding us together. There's a strange heaviness in the air tonight, a weight that sits on the chest like a question no one has the answer to. Ever since the first wave of violent patients flooded the hospitals, people have been whispering the same thing. What is this? What kind of virus twists people into something unrecognizable? What kind of illness turns neighbors into threats and loved ones into dangers? The truth, listeners, is that no one has a solid answer. Not yet. Authorities are releasing statements, but each one feels more carefully worded than the last. Every line is polished, controlled, restrained. And that restraint, that silence between the sentences, that's what scares people the most. Behind the scenes, scientists across the country are scrambling. Medical researchers, virologists, field teams, they're all trying to piece together what exactly we're dealing with. I've spoken with a few off the record, and even the experts sound shaken. They say the pathogen, whatever it is, acts unlike anything we've seen before. It spreads with a speed that's unnatural, as if the infection races ahead of the symptoms. And aggression, extreme, overwhelming aggression, appears within hours, sometimes even minutes. Patients report high fevers, disorientation, confusion. But then something shifts. Something primal takes over. They lose themselves to instinct, to violence, to a hunger that no one can explain. Some of the scientists brave enough to come on air tonight say they're studying mutated cells that don't behave like ordinary human tissue. The infection changes the host, reshapes responses, overrides rational behavior. A few researchers have described what they're observing as neurological hijacking, where the virus targets the brain's survival centers and pushes them into overdrive. But even those explanations fall short of capturing the chaos we're seeing in the streets. And with every hour that passes without a clear answer, the rumors grow louder. People talk about lab experiments gone wrong, secret research conducted in hidden facilities. Others whisper about bioweapons, something crafted, not born, something that escaped containment. A few conspiracy theorists insist this was planned, engineered, released intentionally. No one has proof. No one has confirmation. But fear doesn't wait for evidence. Fear spreads on its own. And right now, fear is moving faster than facts. Authorities are urging calm, repeating that investigations are underway and that citizens should avoid speculation. They're asking the public to remain indoors, cooperate with quarantine measures, and trust the professionals. But when the streets outside are filled with sirens, when helicopters circle overhead, when neighbors barricade their doors and windows, trust becomes harder to come by. Tonight, we aired several short interviews from scientists working around the clock. One voice, Dr. Elena Ruiz, spoke with exhaustion you could hear through the static. She said the pathogen appears to transmit through bites, scratches, and possibly through contaminated bodily fluids. She emphasized the importance of avoiding physical contact with anyone who shows symptoms, fever, delirium, violent outbursts, or unpredictable behavior. Another researcher stressed that no cure, no vaccine, no treatment exists yet. Every hospital, every lab, every field medic is fighting shadows, trying to understand a threat that mutates faster than they can study it. But despite the unknowns, despite the fear, these scientists are still working. Some haven't slept in days. Others haven't seen their families since the first lockdown. They speak softly, not with arrogance or confidence, but with a fragile determination, an unbroken promise that they will keep searching for answers, that they will keep trying, that they won't give up. And maybe that's the only solid truth we have right now. Not the origin of the virus, not the conspiracy theories, not the rumors swirling through abandoned streets and darkened neighborhoods. The truth is that humanity is still fighting to understand, still refusing to surrender. So tonight, listeners, stay alert, stay cautious, stay protected. Follow quarantine guidelines, avoid unnecessary contact, and trust your instincts. The mystery behind this virus may take time to unravel, but until then, knowledge, no matter how limited, remains our best defense. There are moments in history when a single city becomes the epicenter of the world's attention. Moments when one patch of land, one skyline, one cluster of streets suddenly becomes a window into humanity's darkest fears. Tonight, that city is ours. For days now, we've been trapped inside this nightmare. Sirens wailing through empty boulevards, streets lit only by burning cars and flickering streetlights. But now, the world has finally turned its eyes toward us. And what they're seeing, what they're sharing across international news channels, is a picture that no country ever imagined would come from a modern, civilized world. Footage aired earlier shows military barricades collapsing under panicked crowds. Another clip, grainy, shaking, shows people sprinting across bridges, chased by silhouettes that move with terrifying speed. Helicopters circling overhead with searchlights sweeping across rooftop after rooftop. And everywhere, everywhere, smoke rising into the sky like black pillars of warning. Our city has become a broadcast watched by billions. A message, a warning, a living nightmare projected across time zones. And the world is watching in horror. International coverage has intensified. Every major network, from Europe to Asia, from Africa to South America, has broken into continuous live coverage. The anchors sound composed, but their eyes betray the truth. You can hear something cracking in their voices, something they've been trained their whole lives to hide. I heard one international anchor whisper God help them moments before they went live. The microphone picked it up. They didn't know it was still on air. Countries around the world have begun emergency meetings. Diplomatic phone lines that have been dormant for years are lit up again, not for trade agreements or political disputes, but to ask the same question. What is happening in that city? And how do we stop it from spreading? For the first time in decades, nations that distrust each other are sharing information, trading footage, comparing reports. Scientists from across the globe are communicating through whatever secure channels still function, hoping that someone, somewhere, has seen something like this before. So far, no one has. As our city continues to spiral into chaos, help from the outside world is trickling, slowly, cautiously. International aid teams are preparing supply drops. Medical specialists are boarding transport planes armed with hazmat suits and experimental equipment. But most won't land here. It's too dangerous. They'll coordinate outside the perimeter, in the safer zones, in the places not yet touched by the outbreak. Some nations have closed their borders entirely. Others are reinforcing them with military checkpoints, drones, biometric scans, anything that might keep the infection out. Across Europe, I'm hearing reports of overwhelmed airports, crowds begging for flights to safety, lines curling around terminals as people try to leave before international travel is shut down entirely. In Asia, governments are deploying emergency response teams, preparing hospitals, arranging quarantine centers large enough to hold entire districts if needed. South America is broadcasting advisories on every radio frequency they can reach. Africa is mobilizing experienced medical corps, ready to assist, but fearing what might happen if the outbreak crosses oceans. The world is bracing for the possibility that this isn't a local disaster, that this might become something much, much larger. The roads leading out of the city are overflowing. Refugees, hundreds, maybe thousands, are fleeing in waves. Some in cars with smashed windows and missing doors. Some on motorcycles weaving between abandoned vehicles. But many are fleeing on foot, carrying children, dragging suitcases, holding blankets close to their chests. From the radio tower, we can occasionally see them moving like long shadows across the highways. Families walking for miles, stopping only to rest for minutes at a time before continuing their escape from the nightmare behind them. International cameras have captured these streams of people. Drone footage showing highways littered with belongings and cars left behind mid-panic. News commentators describe it as the largest spontaneous civilian evacuation in modern history. Border crossings in neighboring countries show lines stretching beyond what the eye can see. Some people clutch passports. Others carry nothing but hope that someone, anyone, will let them through. And not all are running from infected. Some are running from the fear of what might come next. In the heart of Geneva, the global health organizations are scrambling. Experts are watching our broadcasts, listening to intercepted emergency calls, studying every second of footage taken by fleeing civilians. Their faces appear on international news panels, tired, pale, shaken, as they confirm what we've been seeing with our own eyes. This pathogen is unlike anything documented in human history. In the streets of Rome, Paris, Sao Paulo, Cairo, and Seoul, small protests have begun. Citizens demanding their governments prepare more aggressively, close borders, distribute masks, build shelters. In other regions where panic spreads faster than reason, conspiracy theories are already running wild. Some say it's the end of days. Others claim it's a cover-up for something even darker. And with every rumor, every fearful whisper, the world's pulse grows faster. But through all of this, through the screaming headlines and global fear, one single thread of unity is emerging. Every nation knows they must be ready. I listened to a broadcast from a small station in Japan earlier. The host was speaking quietly, almost reverently, as images from our city played on their newsroom screens. In her voice, I heard both heartbreak and warning. She said, "What we are witnessing is not just a tragedy. It is a reminder of how fragile our systems truly are." In London, volunteers are gathering blankets, medical supplies, canned food to send across borders. In Brazil, local communities are opening their doors to refugees who manage to make it that far. In Canada, emergency centers are preparing to take in displaced families, their beds stacked neatly in rows like something out of a wartime documentary. And in the Middle East, broadcasts echo with prayers for the trapped, prayers that rise like smoke from radios lit by candlelight. The world may be divided by borders, languages, politics, but tonight, humanity is unified by fear and by empathy. News stations are replaying the same clips over and over. Clips we wish they would stop showing, but they can't. Because every frame is a story the world needs to witness. One recording shows a father carrying his daughter through a deserted street lit only by firelight. Another shows people barricading a bridge, pushing cars into place while distant screams echo from the other end. Another clip shows rescuers desperately trying to pull survivors from a bus overturned on the highway. People across the globe are watching these scenes, hands pressed against their mouths, unable to look away. Some cities have set up public screens broadcasting live updates. Entire crowds gather, silent, frozen, as they watch a place they've never heard of fight for its life. It's not just news anymore. It's a global vigil. International lines are failing. Satellite signals are overloaded. Internet access in affected zones flickers like a dying heartbeat. But radio keeps cutting through the darkness. Across continents, shortwave frequencies are carrying our voices farther than we ever imagined. Reports say that signals from outbreak zones, including ours, are reaching ham radios in remote towns, fishing boats miles offshore, mountain cabins where people haven't seen cities in years. Some listeners abroad have even begun rebroadcasting our messages, translating them, sending them across their own networks, sharing survival tips, updates, even small moments of hope with people thousands of miles away. For the first time ever, radio has become a global nervous system, connecting every frightened heartbeat with another one somewhere out there in the night. And that, listeners, that might be the one miracle in all this horror. The world watches our struggle with horror, yes, but also with something else, determination. No country wants to see this nightmare expand beyond our borders. No community wants to wake up to what we've woken up to. And because of that, the world is planning, preparing, fortifying. Engineers are designing emergency shelters. Hospitals are reassigning doctors. Military teams are strategizing containment. Schools are practicing lockdown drills. Citizens everywhere are stocking emergency kits. Parents are holding their children tighter tonight. This outbreak, this terrible tragedy, has become a warning that the world is taking seriously. And to those listening from outside our city, to those safe or safer or far enough away to still see sunlight or hear laughter or sit in a room without barricades, we want you to know this. We are still here. We are still fighting. We are still searching for survivors, broadcasting updates, coordinating patches of hope wherever they may be found. Our signal may flicker. Our city may fracture. Our streets may fall quiet one block at a time. But as long as you hear my voice, as long as this station still stands, we are not lost, and neither are you. The world watches in horror, but the world also watches in solidarity. And as long as they do, maybe we still stand a chance.